Ready? Good afternoon and welcome to Friends Day Friday. And today is our final day this week of hearing some stories from Irene Baron. And she is an author, a photographer, an astronomer, a teacher, and also an artist. And she has done her own illustrations of her books. And today she's going to talk about a little bit about her artwork. And I understand that she won her first award when she was like 12, so she always loved art. So I'm going to turn this over to Irene, and let her share a little bit about her artwork and some of the techniques that she uses, and some other interesting stories I'm sure she's got for us. Hi, Irene.
Hi. The art that I'm working on right now and have been for quite a few years is religious art. It's an angel alphabet book. And I have one picture right behind me that I'm not sure if you can see it easily. But this is Balaam. And Balaam is the one who, he was a prophet, and he was going to one king to deliver information, and God did not want him to go there. So he had the ass, or the donkey was with him, just went down and wouldn't take him, and he was beating the donkey when an angel appeared. And I made my angel very large. I had a personal experience with an angel once. It was probably 20 feet tall, just so big. And so I wanted my angel to be also big. Not all angels have wings. The one I met did not. There were no wings. But this one has wings. And he has a big sword, and he was blocking the way, and the animal could see the angel, but Balaam could not. And Balaam was beating this animal, get going, and the animal would not, because the angel was in front of him, stopping him, and Balaam couldn't see it right away. And so around the outside, I have animals that in the biblical name started with a B. And then down the side, I also have different animals. These are just the heads of different animals that started with a B. But the thing that took the most time probably would be the letters of the alphabet. And I don't know if you can see the letter. Let me move this. So here's the B for Balaam. I'm not sure how clear you can see it, but it's very intricate. And so I prepared all of the illustration board with the basic design, and then I did the alphabet. So then the alphabets themselves took over a year to do, just the alphabet. And so then I had to design what was the main picture, what goes around on the outside of it, and so on. They're all about the same size, and they're going to be in a book, and the book won't be as large as this picture. It's easy to bring a picture down in size. So it will be a small book, and it will be like a coffee table book.
Okay.
So what I've had to do then is study all of the angels and try to find angels maybe with names that I could use in an alphabet, or like I put the Christmas angel. Mm-hmm. And some of those, I did have on my previous website, I had a whole section for art. When I was on this website, the people that owned it, I don't know if there was a death in the family or what, but we were just given a few months to move all our data to another website. And so when I did, I probably lost half of my blogs. There were just so many. I've got about 200 now on my website. And I used to write blogs all the time, like at least once a week a new one, but I've been a little bit lax lately. But I'm going to write one this weekend. I'm going to put one in for a puff pastry pizza. So I'll start on the recipe section, because I love recipes. I only have 2 religious things in my living room, and this painting is one until it's, actually I have a buyer for it when I want to sell it. I said, well, I'm not sure what it's worth. The other thing I have in my living room, let me mention this. This is a cross that was made by a healer, a very godly man by the name of Mitch Bensel. And he made the cross, and on the back, he has his initials, MB. And because I wrote the Mary book, he put a medal of Mary. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't buy the wood. He gets the wood from the river. He lives in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. And when he makes the cross, he prays over it many times for this. He prays for protection and things like this. And he asks God and Jesus Christ to bless it. And you can feel energy in this. It's just astonishing. When I put it the first time on my wall, I walked out and I went into the kitchen, and I came back and I was like over 15 feet away, and it was just pressure. Like in the air, it was just pressure from this cross. I thought, whoa, that is strong. I was just overwhelmed. And so when I go out now, I touch it. And it's very precious. It's very powerful. And just an aside to the story, Mr. Bensel, Mitch Bensel, who has been healing, he prays to God for healing, and the healing takes place. And he's healed my back from pain, my knees, just so many. I was falling apart. I'm pain free. It's just wonderful. But he sells these all different. This is a smaller one. He sells very big ones, but it's just awesome. It's just MITCH, Mitch Bensel, BENSEL, and I'm sure you can find him online. But I was very pleased to get this. It's a special gift. When it comes to artwork, I started probably in grade school. We had an art teacher that came once a week, and like today, much of the art that's taught in schools today is not really art, it's crafts. Mm-hmm. So the kids can take something home. And because of that, they don't really learn to draw unless they've got a really good art teacher. I'm on a committee that we evaluate students in several different counties to see how well they do in their art from all the different grades up through high school. And we judge them and then give them a certificate of achievement for what they have achieved. And they have to come in and be interviewed and give us a portfolio of what they have done. And there's one school district, Northern Local, their students were so far superior to all the other schools. And when we get a Northern Local, I just couldn't wait to see what kind of art these kids were turning in, because all the other districts here, Zanesville City, all the county schools, they just were so inferior compared to Northern Local. I said, I would really like to know who those art teachers are over there. They're fantastic. So anyway, art is something that I think should be in everyone's background in school. I had art all through grade school. And the art teacher that I had at the Zanesville Arts Center for, let's say, 8 years, 9, until I was a senior, he was my junior high school teacher. And he would take 6 weeks. We had him every day, 45 minutes. 6 weeks, a grading period, was nothing but lettering, basic lettering up through calligraphy. Can you imagine 6 weeks every day? Fantastic. You learned everything. Then the next 6 weeks, maybe it was Calder mobiles, where you have the mobile hanging and everything is balanced so that it just moves very easily. Mm-hmm. And some of the guys in the class were so enthralled with that. It was more engineering than anything. Came up with beautiful things. This one guy had a fish that was probably 20 inches long, and every part of that fish moved. And it would be from many different angles the wires were hanging down, or the string. It was just magnificent. And 6 weeks we built flats for plays. We would put the 2x4s down, and the teacher would pound them together, and we'd stretch the canvas, and then we'd gesso it. Then we'd paint. For this play, they need a living room door, they need this and that and this and that. And we spent 6 weeks making all the sets for the plays. And it was really educational. Anything you'd ever want was so phenomenal. And then I went to high school. And the high school teacher was just, I suppose maybe a lot of the people she had had never had the classes that I'd had at the Art Center for years and years and years. So I just took one, and then I complained. I never took another one from her. But my senior year, they brought Henry Paulin, Dr. Henry Paulin from Ohio State University, came to Zanesville, Ohio. We were considered a pottery capital of the world. Mosaic tiles were made from Zanesville, Ohio. And now they're produced over the world using the word mosaic, which probably is a copyrighted name. They're finally going to tear that building down, mosaic building, in the next year, so it's been out of business for a long time. But they were going to offer a ceramics course, but what was really neat about it, it was going to take 2 classes every day, so it was like an hour and a half every day, 2 45-minute periods. And I had it the last 2 periods of every day, and I thought, wow, I love pottery. And Professor Paulin, or Dr. Paulin, came down to teach it from Ohio State University. He taught up there for many years. And we started with just rolling out the clay and cutting it into little pieces that were about 1 inch square. This is 1 inch on your body is right here. So that's about how big, think squares. We each made about 20 to 30 squares and fired them. And then he taught us how to make glaze. And we had those squares were for testing glazes. We'd make glazes using all the different chemicals. And I love copper because I love the blues. And we had many of the chemicals, and he would guide us in how do you make red, how do you make blue, how do you make green, And then we would brush these on the tiles and then fire them. And when they're fired, whoa, totally different from what you thought they were going to be. And just beautiful. So then after we did that, then we learned to start to make pottery. And we started with the basics. They had 6 electric wheels and 6 foot wheels that you use your feet to make the wheel move. What was really difficult was there were only 2 people signed up for the class. So we had a lot of students that back then were called lower level students that weren't in regular classrooms, and they filled his classes with them. And they loved ceramics, and to have it for two periods, they could use their hands. They learned all this art, and they were just naturals. It was really nice. Yeah. One of the things he asked me to enter the Rockefeller Foundation scholarship. It would give you like a full ride at a college in art. So what I had to do was design a piece like you would on a blueprint. And I chose a vase that was very smooth the way the lines were. And it had to be the exact same size that the vase was going to be. Or pitcher, it was a pitcher, I'm sorry, it had a handle. And then I had to construct it exactly the way the diagram was, or the blueprint. And while it was in its greenware stage, it was cool, it was drying. It has to dry a certain amount, so there's no moisture in it before it's fired. If there's moisture in it, the air expands and it cracks the pottery piece. So he had it way up high on a shelf, and he was out in the hall. The teacher is supposed to be in the hall when the classes change to make sure everything's fine, but they have no control of what goes on in the room. And one of these students climbed up, moved some chairs and tables and climbed up to grab a hold of that and broke it. And when I came down several periods later, when I walked in the room, he just started crying. And he cried and cried. I didn't know what it was, but when he saw me, he started crying. And when he finally could talk, he said, "I am so sorry." And then he explained that my piece had been broken and it was too late to start it over because the deadline was too soon. We just had enough time for it to dry, to fire, to glaze, to fire, and ship. And he was just devastated. But that taught me some things are foreordained. I wasn't to go into science, or into art rather. That was one of the things that, it was my senior year. It was a fantastic class. It was just phenomenal. He said, we learned in 1 year, but what many ceramic students learned in 4 years at Ohio State, because it was so intense. And we had the best professor with all the equipment. We had what's called a damp cabinet, would clear across the room. It was a cabinet they were metal with shelves, and you could put your pottery in there, cover it with a damp cloth and close the door, and it stayed damp. It didn't dry out. We had walk-in kilns, small kilns. We had anything, any size you wanted. I don't know who gave the money for all the equipment, but it was just fantastic. And then clays, all the different types of clays. Some clays so fine and so perfect, it was like porcelain, just beautiful. So that was one of my art endeavors, was the pottery, and it was just beautiful. So I figured up, we had 181 days of school, and I had like 2 hours a day. Wow. So over 300 and some hours of just pottery. So it was very intense. It was wonderful, but because it was 2 hours a day, a lot of students didn't take it. I had all the credits I needed, so I could take it. It didn't bother me at all, but a lot of students are, their senior year, they have to have this and this and this before they graduate, and they don't have time to take it. But it was quite a loss. I don't know what happened to all the equipment, but he wasn't there very long. Much probably to his dismay, there just wasn't the interest from the community. But it was phenomenal. And it helped me, so later on, when you're 50 or 60 years old, you can go to any college or university in the United States free. You get no credit. But you can take any class you want. So I would take ceramics. Have access to all this clay. There was a lab fee for the clay and stuff. And have equipment, all the equipment you wanted. And in time to make anything you wanted. The teacher would be doing this or that. And I might be the only person in the classroom that had any experience in pottery, and everybody else was brand new. So I just had a ball taking courses free. You got no credit. You didn't have to take the tests. I always did, but I think for colleges and universities to offer courses like that free for anyone 50, 60 years old, that's phenomenal. I took creative writing. I took communications, thinking I'm going to make an audio of one of my books, and then it'll be an audible. You can listen to it in the car or something. And it sounded so difficult. I was very blessed when I found this. One of my books is called Mind Reacher. And it's about telepaths helping the government find terrorists by reading their minds. And I thought, well, I'm going to make this into an audible book. And I thought, it's too difficult. I can't do this. And I was very fortunate to find a narrator. And the narrator is the one that made this, Mitch Bensel. And he narrated the book. His voice, one lady said on Twitter, she said, I don't care what he narrates, I'm buying it. Because another lady said his voice is a honey butter voice. I don't know, but it's really good. So he narrated that book for me. And the cross that he gave me was just a gift. But I thought, when you talk about art, these are some people would call them maybe a primitive art, a very basic art. It's very beautiful. But what is really neat about the cross is all the blessings in it and all the prayers in it, that they're very powerful. And one thing I didn't mention, there was one lady who had one hanging on her wall, and she'd asked prayers for protection, thinking house and her and everything. And her husband was arguing with her really bad, and they were about 4 feet from the wall, and that cross flew off the wall and hit him in the face. If it had just gotten loose, it would have fallen straight down. But the power in that, it flew off the wall and hit the husband, and it stopped. So you talk about art, that's powerful art.
Right.
With the prayer and the blessings in there, you just don't stop and think about it. What happened. A lot of stories. He has a lot of stories of crosses. How's our time doing?
I think we're getting about ready to wrap up, and I thought this was really interesting. And I got myself in trouble in my ceramics class in college. They said to make a vase with feet on it, so I put feet on the bottom of the vase.
Oh, okay.
The professor was like, "That's not what I meant." He was so mad. But I still have the piece.
Here in Zanesville, they have an Ohio art exhibition. It's a juried exhibition where you put something in, whether it's a photography or ceramic or oil or whatever, and it has to be juried. The judge, I like it or I don't. If they like it, it's in the exhibition. And one year, Dr. Charles Dietz said, he told me later, he said, "Irene, in my history of being with the Zanesville Art Museum for so many years, no one has ever entered and been juried into the art show having something in every single category." He said, "You're the only one, even photography, you know." And he said, it's just never happened before. And I thought, well, I'm glad he told me. That was kind of fun.
Right, that's so amazing. An amazing accomplishment. Well, Irene, it's been a wonderful week, and we'll have her we'll have a little short video tomorrow where she'll show about some of her books and art pieces that are for sale on Super Proper Saturday. And I'm glad you joined us this whole week, and it's been a pleasure to listen to all your stories. And of course, I will have all of her contact information and all of the links to her website and her books and different things on this post with the video. So thank you again for joining us, Irene. It's been a pleasure listening to you and all the wonderful stories you have. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.